Thanks everyone again for joining our visitor sector webinar today. If you have missed any of the previous webinars, please feel free to check out our website, C2NZ. We have a section on there, business webinars, and all are listed there, as well as the links that Alex has been providing through the different sessions. And also, if you're not already, sign up to our visitor industry update, as we'll be pushing out the recordings through this newsletter. Today's webinar is on the art of storytelling for tourism, and I'm really pleased to welcome back Alex Dykman from Maverick Digital in Auckland. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for joining us again today, Alex. So Alex is here to share how we can create inspiring and engaging content that will help us to convert the domestic traveller. So we had a session last time with Alex as well, so hopefully you've done your homework, which was given around looking at your business story and how you tell your story currently. So Angela Scott will also be back from Cloud 12 to facilitate the Q&A after the presentation, but feel free to use the chat box to pop in any questions throughout, and Alex will be able to answer those at the end or else during the presentation if she sees them. So I think we'll just get straight into it. So I'll hand over to you, Alex.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that lovely intro, Rebecca. Hey, just to kick off, guys, who has spent some time refining their unique selling points since our last presentation? Or have a thought about what they are, or revisited what you'd like them to become? Anybody? You can pop it in chat.
I can see there's one thumbs up there.
Yes, awesome. Cool, okay, all good. Well, if you haven't thought about that, it might, oh cool, awesome, Kylie. It might be worth having a think about as I'm going through this presentation today, because your USPs will essentially form a massive part of how you approach storytelling across all your digital platforms. So it is worth refining them and making sure they're as good as they can be right now. Cool, okay, I'm going to share my screen and get the slides up. Okay, let's kick off, guys. So when it comes to marketing in 2020, gone are the days of the hard sell. So as consumers, we are completely inundated with content and advertising. There was one estimation that people from the West are exposed to between 3,000 and 4,000 ads every single day. So that's content and advertising as we drive our kids to school, scroll Facebook while we wait for coffee, and sit in traffic on the way to work. Now that's up to kind of 10,000 brands competing for our attention every single day. It's incredibly noisy out there. And as consumers, it means we're kind of turned off by general marketing. For the bulk of it, we don't really want to be sold to as we go about our daily lives. We're especially turned off by being sold to by tourism companies in particular. There's so much depth to exploring a new destination or taking a holiday, from history to culture to human stories to the environment and beyond. And when it comes to travel, potential guests, whether they're Kiwis or Aussies or internationals, want to be wooed. The potential holiday maker wants to really kind of immerse themselves in a new narrative. They want to learn, discover, get excited about a potential new experience. Today's traveller demands way more creative content and in-depth storytelling than ever before. And it is this kind of content that helps you stand out against the crowd and help your potential guests move through the travel decision-making process. We want to take our guests beyond the simple nuts and bolts of an offering, beyond the simple price points and packages and room types, into the actual heart of your brand and your overall tourism experience. Let's have a look at some examples of brands that have done storytelling well to date. I'm not sure if you've seen the Iceland Academy. So this was done by Destination Marketing Board Iceland, who definitely have it easier than the average operator. You know, they have the luxury of weaving together a narrative around an entire destination rather than just one product or one experience. But when it comes to storytelling by DMOs, the Iceland Academy really was a bit of a home run. So through quirky videos presented by Icelandic locals, the consumer learnt all about the nuances of Icelandic culture, from things like hot tub etiquette to driving tips, eating, winter sports, and what to wear. It was a really quirky, kind of offbeat, interesting campaign, and it really did communicate to the consumer so much more than just the standard Icelandic volcanoes and Icelandic hot pools line that has been really rolled out over again and again. And by putting storytelling and people at the core of their marketing, these guys were able to make Iceland seem really different to other places that had similar landscapes, all because it had a deeper and more people-focused story attached to the campaign. So bringing it a little bit closer to home, Dunedin's tongue-in-cheek Plan D campaign, whether you love it or hate it, has used really quirky, kind of dark humour storytelling to stand out against the domestic marketing noise right now. You know, it's all about if you've had to cancel your trip to Bali this year, no worries, Dunedin's just the same, but you have to bring a wetsuit. Or if you're keen to, you know, head to Edinburgh to experience the historical buildings, you know, Dunedin's not exactly the same, but it kind of is. So these guys have done an awesome job of weaving a tourism narrative to set them apart from other destinations and other places in New Zealand. And it did achieve a lot of noise as well, just because the story in itself was so unique and quirky and really quintessentially Dunedin. Those are some good examples of how storytelling in tourism can help you stand out from the crowd. So the way in which you need to think about doing this is differentiating yourself through your stories and through your brand. So number one, guys, if you haven't articulated your USPs, make sure you do that straight away initially before you even start thinking about broader tourism content creation. Have a think about who your competitors are and how their brand stories are different to your own. Are they better? Are they more engaging? Are they deeper? How do they differ to what you've got out there in the market? Have a think about how you can tell your story in a way that really stands out and fits your target traveller. The way you're going to talk to young professionals and backpackers will be very different to how you're going to talk to an older cultural explorer, semi-retired market. Also have a think about what the likely barriers to travel are for your target audience to book with you, because you can address that through your stories. So say you've got a beautiful B&B, but it's really off the beaten track. It's quite hard to get to, and guests often worry about the location before they're booking it. Think about how you can address that barrier to travel within the stories you're getting out there. You might do a kind of you know, 2 hours on the way to our B&B in the valley, 5 awesome stops, or hidden waterfalls along our route, or all that kind of thing to help you address any barriers to travel or booking that guests have when they think about your product. Thinking about applying this with a domestic traveller lens, because that's all we have to deal with to focus on right now, obviously, which is great for you guys, because last year you saw 82% domestic travellers within the Manawatu Whanganui region anyway, which means that Kiwis are incredibly important as travellers to you guys, which is great. So because of this, it's really worth thinking about how your brand narrative appeals to the domestic traveller specifically, and if there are any ways that you can tweak it to make it more appealing or connected to that Kiwi traveller as they're considering a visit to your region. So have a think about how you can play off points like how much Kiwis love backing Kiwis right now. So TRA research said that 70% of New Zealanders are really, really motivated at the moment to buy New Zealand products and experiences. So that means kind of talking up your Kiwi roots or your family's history with the area, your family's background, how you grew up as a Kiwi kid yourself, all those types of things. When you weave them into your own brand storytelling, it's going to make you a lot more appealing to that New Zealand traveller that we're talking to right now. Have a think about how you can speak to New Zealanders' sense of connection. So how can you bring your story down to earth and make it more connected with a Kiwi way of life, or Kiwi kind of cultural loves, or cultural codes, that kind of thing. Also have a think about what are the things that Kiwis in particular love about your experience. So when New Zealanders come and stay with you or come and do your activity, is there any specific feedback that you always get from Kiwis every single time? You know, is it Kiwis that always remark on the amount of native birds that are just outside the window of their bedroom when they stay with you? Or is it Kiwis who love talking about how epic the rapids was in a particular section of river when they went rafting with you? What are the things that your New Zealand guests of the past have really enjoyed about your specific offering? So pinpoint those and then tease them out within your stories. Also have a think about what the context is that your offering fits within. So what is the big picture that New Zealanders see around your offering? You know, if you're a beautiful boutique B&B offering, what are the activities and the walks and the food options that are around you that form the wider part of your tourism story, essentially? So think about what those elements are, and then also have a think about how you can bring them into the stories and the content you're creating for your business. You'll have so much more cut through. Let's talk about telling your story, so the dissemination of your message specifically. Communicating your narrative to potential customers really does come in all shapes and sizes, and you'll need to keep best practice in mind when you're publishing through different platforms. So here are kind of the key platforms that form the process of the tourism decision-making kind of conversion funnel. So these are the 4 kind of key areas that you need to think about specifically when you're revisiting content marketing, tourism storytelling. Number 1 is your own website. So there are a myriad of content opportunities available to you on your own website. You can build it out so it's a real kind of deep brand experience, rather just being about the nuts and bolts of your offering, you know, the package, the price point, the activity itself, and the booking. Think about how much deeper you can go with telling your story and how you can set yourself apart from competitors on your own site. Your email marketing is also a very core part of your brand, communicating to your target audiences. So EDMs, regular EDMs, talking to people who have either, either travelled with you before or people who have inquired but not potentially booked. EDMs are just another platform that you can connect with your target audiences and bring your brand narrative to the fore, really. Think about your organic social media pages as well. So specifically Facebook and Instagram we recommend for tourism. Social media is a very conversational, down-to-earth, relaxed place to connect with your current fans and previous guests, and also their friends and potential people who are going to be into your offering as well. And the last one is telling your story through collaboration. So collaboration like working closely with Cedar here, working with Tourism New Zealand, getting across the Your Backyard Stuff campaign and other businesses and that kind of thing. So it's another way that you can tell your story pretty much through a third party. So let's talk about coming up with topics, because this is often a real roadblock for people who think, you know, I've got a accommodation offering, it's lovely, but there's, you know, there's not a lot of storytelling or content ideas that go beyond the actual staying, you know, with us as far as that goes. I'm just going to have a look at the chat quickly, guys. Oh, sorry. So EDM stands for electronic direct mail. So essentially it's just email marketing, and it's a bit of an acronym for that. Sorry. Cool. So when you're thinking about how to come up with clever topics that are going to resonate with your target audience, think about the following things. So have a bit of a brainstorm around your history and your company culture and how that's different to other offerings in the area. So you might have very long and deep family history of the accommodation offering that you're managing. You may have Māori culture connection with your offering as well. So things like that can all be teased out into a wider content plan. Have a think about your staff and your people, or even your animals, and how that makes you different to other offerings in the area. Your staff might be, they might be locals, or they might be on working holidays, that kind of thing. Have a chat to them about their own stories and their own interactions with your offering as well. Have a think about your environment. So that note I made about Kiwis loving, native birds outside their window in the mornings. That's a great kind of angle to talk to New Zealanders that a B&B out in the country might have. But think about how your environment affects the wider guest experience of your offering, and then think about how that can be brought into your content marketing work as well. Local secrets is always a real popular one. So think about the itineraries you could create, or specific travel tips that you could recommend that only locals are going to know about. So only, you and the people that live in your area are going to know about. Travellers love tidbits and recommendations that come from local people, because they feel like they're really experiencing the proper kind of heart of the place, really. Your guests themselves also can be an awesome source of tourism storytelling content. So maybe a family came and visited you from Queenstown, who are really quirky and took a bunch of really cool photos, near your offering, or had a really amazing time staying with you. Maybe you've had some awesome feedback come back from, a couple who came to you on their honeymoon, who then gave you updates of the rest of their holidays. So that kind of stuff, your guests can actually be really good content in their own right too. And also kind of future plans and ambitions, with a bit of a forward-facing outlook as well, can be quite interesting. So maybe sustainability goals for the future, or maybe you're trying to create a bit of a pest-free backyard within your offering, or you're cleaning up the banks of the river that you offer rafting tours down. All that kind of stuff is really, really cool to build out within your content narrative as well. So before we go too much further down the topic side of things, I just want to mention something called the COPE strategy, which stands for Create Once, Publish Everywhere. This strategy is all about getting bang for buck, really, so the most traction you can out of a piece of content. Before you push a piece of content through the COPE strategy, you do need to ask yourself if there's enough subset original story before you decide to extend it to other formats and platforms. So make sure it's a really good, interesting piece of content before you disseminate it out through all of your different platforms. The COPE strategy basically means that if you wrote a piece of content on your website, say an itinerary, then once you've written it, you share and you publish it across as many channels as possible. So you might post the link on your company Facebook page, you might get a related business in the area to then share it, or you could lightly rewrite it and ask a related business to publish it on their site with a backlink back to you. Just make sure there's no copy pasting going on, because Google does hate duplication of content. Within that itinerary dissemination, using the COPE strategy, you might film a short clip of you and the family experiencing the highlights that are in the itinerary you've published, and then post the video to your YouTube account. So COPE it's not a scary approach to content. It simply means thinking about how you can get the most value possible out of every piece of content you write, without duplicating it anywhere, but how you can get the most bang for buck for the amount of time you've put into creating a piece of content, and then getting it in front of as many people as you can through various platforms and through various third-party connections. This was a strategy that we used a lot when we were at Tourism New Zealand. So each piece of tourism content that was created was then pushed out through every single platform possible. Cool. So content and online visibility have a very, very close relationship. So Google loves new, fresh, and well-written content. It's one of the absolute key things that search engines look for when ranking a website against others for a specific key phrase. Quality, well-written content on your website works in two ways, really. It helps you index better on Google, and it also helps potential guests be wooed into your offering by telling a really unique narrative. If your website content is really static and hasn't been changed or added to in months or even years, there's a strong chance that your conversion rate will be really low. So the conversion rate is how many people are inquiring or booking through your website, as well as your visibility on Google being a fraction of what it can be. People still do come first, so delighting your reader with quality content that's really easy to consume and navigate means that you will delight Google robots as well. So don't write for Google robots specifically, write for people first, and then you'll be upweighted by search engines because people are at the heart of your user experience. Let's talk about the types of website content you can create based on catering to the travel decision-making process, or the funnel, as we like to call it, because there are specific types of content that go with different parts of making the decision to book travel or to commit to travel. So that top part of the funnel there, that dream part, is when people who come to your website who aren't yet ready or really interested in booking. They're basically feeling things out, dipping their toes in the water of what's on offer in the region, and getting a handle on what they should be including in their itinerary. It's very high level, there's no commitment, it's more about research and feeling something out. When it comes to storytelling, to cater to that dream phase, this is the time to woo people with your brand narrative. So things like an article on the family history of rafting the river that you take tours on would be a great idea. Having an itinerary written for families wanting to slow down and reconnect. Maybe an article on the best half-day walks within a half-hour drive of your accommodation. Soft content is what works really well higher in the funnel as you aim to kind of get people's interest and woo them through that process a wee bit more. The next part of the funnel is what we like to call interaction. So they're keen, but they're not committed. So it really is time to turn on the charm here. And this is a great time to bring up the experience that other guests have had with you. So making sure you've got really good testimonial content or even user-generated content on your site and on your social channels is a great way to gain a potential user's trust and show them that you're a really great option to continue considering. Your key selling points, so your key USPs, are really important here. This is the point when a guest will be considering other options, so you need to emphasize why you're so special against other competitors. The next part of the funnel would be the plan part, which is a wee bit more factual and focused on logistics. This is when you're getting people over the line and really addressing their barriers to travel through the stories and the content you've got on your site. So knowing what your potential guest barriers to travel might be is really important to get them through this part of the process. And you need to ensure that you've got content on your site to address these barriers to travel. So perhaps you're located a wee bit off the beaten trail, like I was talking about before, and an article outlining the top things to do in your valley could really help show guests that it's worth the effort of coming to visit. Or maybe your primary market is family travellers and you really want to show people that kids of all ages have an awesome time staying with you or experiencing your product. Content and imagery on your homepage that focuses on families making memories with kids at all different ages would be a really cool way to help you connect with that family's audience and get them over the line to book. So when it comes to content, booking is the relatively easy part. The user's really focused, really motivated, they've got their credit card at the ready, and you just need to make sure they're nurtured and pushed across that final step. When it comes to kind of content to cater to people in the booking part of the funnel, it's really all business. So ensure that you've got content around your cancellation policy, which should be relatively generous right now, so you're catering to that cautious traveller, as well as things like price point packages and combos that offer really good value for money. So save the kind of deep narrative stories for people who are higher up in the funnel. I hope that makes sense, that content planning process based on the travel decision making process, because it really is quite a nice combo of catering what you've got on your site to people and the actual process that they're going through. So just quickly, when you're building out content on your homepage, or you're understanding content in general, it's really good if you understand topic clusters. So these funky looking things are a way of organizing and publishing information on your site, so it's as appealing to Google as possible. This model is a way of organizing a site's content pages using cleaner site architecture, where the website is structured in clusters of topics. The model begins with a website's homepage having a number of pillar pages, each surrounding a different topic. Off of each pillar page, there are a number of linked content pages, which directly relate to that pillar page's topic and different relevant keywords. This model really shifts a website's focus towards targeting specific topics that you want search engines to see you as the expert in. So when someone searches for them, you rank really highly for users. Another really cool thing about topic clusters is that all of the pages within a topic serve to lift each other up. So because all of your topic content pages link back to the hub itself, if one page gets indexed, if one page gets some really good Google love in terms of rankings, the entire cluster will benefit from that page's success. The interlinking between pages is what shows Google other relevant content. Now, it does look a wee bit like gobbledygook, but there's a strong chance that you're maybe already approaching your content in this way on your site. So say you're an accommodation offering with multiple room types. You're likely to have all of these pages together in one place on your website, and that's essentially a topic cluster. Say if you're an activity operator and you've got a really good About Us section on your website with various pages on who you are and the things you've achieved, then that's also a topic cluster in itself. So websites are often organized in this way already. We just want to continue organizing content in this way as you're building it out. So yeah, when it comes to tourism storytelling, this is just a way to organize your thinking, really. A good example is saying you're wanting to capture people in that dreaming phase, which is a great place to create a bunch of itineraries that link together of varying lengths and focus topics that all connect back to a specific itineraries cluster. Or maybe you're trying to attract more families to your offering. You could have a families cluster with different families content that's all interrelated back to the hub. Once you get in the actual content planning process, topic clusters do tend to make more sense. It's kind of easier to understand when you put it into practice rather than looking at it on a screen like this. So don't be disillusioned or put off. So let's talk about content and tourism storytelling when it comes to Facebook and Instagram. And like I said before, social media is a far more relaxed conversational space than your website or your email newsletters. And because of that, it requires a slightly different approach to content than other platforms. Facebook is also probably smarter than most of us. These guys are constantly making updates to the Facebook algorithm that makes it even more difficult to ensure that your content gets in front of your target audience. It's not overly easy to create a buzz from your Facebook presence. It doesn't really happen magically. And the platform places a lot of value on meaningful interactions and connections with your fans. And it kind of deprioritizes news and other public content like that. So you really want to focus on content that inspires fan engagement and interaction when you're approaching these platforms. So the first point to think about is really knowing your audience. So your Facebook or your Instagram fans, where do they live? Are they mostly female or male? Do they maybe have kids? What kind of lifestyle do they lead? And what times of the day do they mostly log into Facebook and Instagram? All of those things you can find on the Insights tab of your pages. The next point is to ensure that your brand and your tone of voice comes through really strongly in every post. So make sure you're matching your kind of brand and your USPs with the audience that you're targeting. You do want to change the way you're speaking to a younger audience versus a mother with children versus a older semi-retired couple. There's a very different way of having conversations with those specific audiences. Make sure you're mixing up static and moving footage. So make sure you're posting both with images and with videos when you can. Videos tend to generate kind of 16% more engagement or even more. We see video ads get a lot more engagement than static image ads, so it's just worth thinking about. And consistency is key, really. So go for quality, not quantity. Don't try and thrash yourself and do daily posts on these platforms. We kind of use the rule of thumb of 2 unique posts per week across Facebook and Instagram. So essentially that's 4 posts, 4 specific unique posts every week. But if you can only do 1 or 2 per week, focus on quality, not quantity, because that's how you get the engagement that Facebook and Instagram like to see to upweight your posts in the future. And also work off a content plan. Content plans make approaching this space and make creating content for these spaces far, far easier than if you're just kind of doing it on the fly. So on that content plan piece, let's talk about how to go about doing that. So there's kind of 3 really easy steps that we always go through to create a content plan for operators within these platforms. So number 1 is to outline your core brand pillars and then connect those brand pillars to actual subjects. Right, so if one brand pillar is, focusing on your family-owned messaging, that could translate into focusing on maybe your family history and family memories as a specific subject in itself. Likewise, if one brand pillar is, the sustainability angle of your offering, that could then translate into really cool environmental or landscape-focused posts and subjects into the future. So once you've got kind of your key subjects that you think would work really well in these platforms, the 5 broad kind of topics, kind of brainstorm the types of content that goes with those 5 broad topics. So maybe brainstorm a landscape series of posts that might be really good to go with your sustainability USP. Maybe brainstorm a whole bunch of points on your family history that go really beautifully with your family-owned messaging. So it's basically bringing content through that's aligned with your USPs, talks to your audience really beautifully, and also does so in kind of a relaxed, more conversational way, which is the right way to talk to people in social platforms. And then creating a simple calendar that outlines when you'll publish posts related to each individual subject is really cool, because then you're covering all of your unique brand pillars within the posts that you're pushing to Facebook and Instagram. And then test and refine. So you might see that your audience loves posts about your family history and your favorite family holiday memories, but really isn't overly engaged with your landscape nature style posts. So then you'll upweight the family memory style of posts and you won't do as many landscape style posts. So it's all about learning what works and what doesn't, and then catering your content to suit. Cool. So let's talk about storytelling within email marketing, so within EDMs essentially. This is another great platform to connect with your guests on a bit of a deeper level. And the first thing you need to do is differentiate between your contact list. So everybody on your database, are they a mixture of previous guests versus people who haven't visited before but may have inquired? Or is it just previous guests? Have you got segmentation around domestic versus international? Or have you segmented maybe families versus couples? All those kinds of lists are really important to make sure that the stories you're serving people within your EDMs cater to them specifically as a person. Make sure your EDMs are kind of short and sharp and really well designed. We do see so many EDMs that are not well designed and contain way too much content, which is a pretty horrible user experience, especially on mobile, and isn't going to drive the user engagement that you can see from this platform. EDMs is a great way to get people to engage more deeply with your brand. So click-throughs to your website, having links peppered throughout the EDM that go through to your website is a really great way to help people get more interested and more engaged with your offering, essentially. So have a look at this EDM sample content plan. Number one is to introduce the author or have the author have a little excerpt at the top. We personally love kind of having a very strong consumer-facing author as part of an EDM because it makes it way more personal and connected than just a brand. You know, and the author could be the owner, it could be yourself, it could be, you know, someone who's head of sales and marketing, that kind of stuff. As long as there's a photo and kind of a quirky introduction on each EDM from that specific person, it just makes your target audience feel more connected with you and with the humans behind this product. The next piece of content you could include would be a photo of the month from a guest. So you might see guests posting some really cool images to Facebook or Instagram, and you might have one that stands out every month, and you can say, hey, you know, thanks Sally Smith from Auckland for posting this beautiful photo of her family reunion that she had here last month, or that kind of thing. So bring guests into your EDMs because that forms really engaging content. One more piece of content you might like to include is a link to your latest blog post. Maybe, you know, 5 family-friendly walks in your valley, or, you know, the ultimate itinerary, you know, for 3 days in and around our offering, that kind of thing. EDMs are a great place to get more legs out of your blog post, essentially. You might like to include a discount or a call to action, or you know, something that involves trying to get them to convert, which could be maybe a gift voucher campaign for Mother's Day, or a kids stay free campaign during school holidays. That kind of thing is great to finish with. And then contact details in a really short sign off. So EDMs should be short and sweet with content chunks not being huge. It's basically content, image, link to somewhere else, and then you're repeating that process, and that's how you get really, really good engagement with your stories and with your content. So let's also talk about, as our last point, our last way to disseminate our stories is kind of through a real collaborative approach with third parties. So think about the listings that you've got out there in the public space. So listings that you've got on CEDA or on the Tourism New Zealand website. Listings are a great place to amplify and tell your story as well. Don't be afraid to have a quick look at what you've got out there and update the content. Now we're focusing 100% on a domestic and potentially Australian market. Have a think about how you can maybe work a little bit closer with Tourism New Zealand and CEDA as well. So getting involved in things like media for mills, making sure that those guys are on your mail out list for any press releases and that kind of stuff. Keep them in the loop because they can help to amplify your stories as well. Back Your Backyard is a really awesome campaign that's being supported by Tourism New Zealand and your RTOs and EDAs throughout the country as well. It's very much all about going into the regions and finding local gems that Kiwis will love. The author is Brooke Sabine, and he's quite open and quite engaged with regional New Zealand tourism offerings as well. So seeing if you can get featured in that campaign, or if or just being in the loop with what CEDA's doing in that space is a really smart way to get your stories amplified to a wider audience. We've seen a massive increase in website traffic for some of our clients that were featured in those Back Your Backyard articles as well, which is really cool. And have a think as well about other operators that really complement your offering. So maybe you are a accommodation offering and you've got a really beautiful restaurant just down the road that your guests rave about, or maybe you're, you know, an activity provider with a really awesome lodge just down the road that your guests love staying at. So how can you team up with other operators that are really complementary with what you offer to then share and disseminate each other's stories? Maybe you could guest write a blog on their website. Maybe you could share some of their Facebook content, that kind of stuff. So it's really good when you're collaborating with others, because you're stronger together. The whole tourism offering of the region is one that needs to be presented as a whole, not individually. When you team up with others, it really achieves that as well. So it's not just you who can communicate your stories, really. There's lots of other third-party partners that can do so. So we're nearly there, guys. Let's just think about, we'll have a quick look at what success looks like in this space, because it's you know, it's going to take a lot of time to do content and kind of craft your stories properly. So you need to know what good performance looks like, essentially. With your website content, the 3 metrics you should pay the most attention to in Google Analytics is time on site. So how long are people spending on your site when they come and visit? Ideally, you kind of want 2 minutes plus, but you'll see you can go into time on site and see what pages they've visited as well, which will show which blogs, articles, content is most popular as well. Your bounce rate is really important for an engagement metric too. So ideally you want that to sit under kind of 55 or 60%. Now that is the amount of people who are coming to your site, only viewing one page and then leaving. So if you're kind of getting 1 and 2 people to view more than one page, then that is really engaged compared to other industry averages on other websites. And also your conversion rate too. So that's the amount of people who are ultimately booking or inquiring with you as a percentage of your total users. So we always say that a conversion rate of kind of 1.5% or more is great. Obviously, lately it will be a little bit lower, but in those high seasons or in those busy times, if you're converting 1.5% of traffic or more, then that means your overall approach to digital, including your stories and your paid media and your SEO, the whole shooting box together, is doing an awesome job of driving value for your business. In the social media space, it's basically engagement that shows that your content is doing a great job. So the more likes, shares and comments you can inspire is fantastic. And also seeing a bit of a long-term growth in fans also means that you are doing a great job to reach more people and have more people follow your page, and therefore a bigger audience essentially. When it comes to EDMs, keeping an eye on your unsubscribe rate with each EDM that gets sent out is really intelligent. And if it starts to climb, it really does mean that your content needs to be reworked or optimized. And also your click-through rate as well. So the amount of people that click through from the EDM to your website or to your social channels, which shows how engaging your stories and your content are overall. So it's kind of those 3 key elements, and those things show engagement and show performance and cut through of your content essentially. Let's have a look at a bit of a storytelling checklist to finish off, and you can kind of take away to work on this over time as well. So have a think about how you can tell your stories in a way that sets you very much apart from your competitors. So that looks like articulating your USPs as a starting point, looking at why you're different as a brand, and then figuring out the stories that come from those USPs, which are really, really different to people who are competing with you. And they essentially cannot claim any of the same things because they are so unique. Number 2, if you've got writer's block, brainstorm a bunch of topics and content ideas that are uniquely your own. So from those USPs, how can you kind of tease out a whole bunch of content types and ideas and topics to then go and write more on? Make sure you're organising all new website content into topic clusters. So that will be things like itinerary cluster, maybe a families cluster, maybe a food and wine cluster. It's just a really smart way to make sure you're getting the most bang for buck with everything you're publishing, and that Google will crawl your site more, index your pages higher, and yeah, basically just more bang for buck and more ROI for the time you're spending in this space. The medium is the message, so make sure you're adapting your content for different platforms. Don't copy paste a blog into Facebook, or don't publish the same Facebook post in Instagram, because each platform requires a slightly different type of content. The next one is to make sure you've got an ongoing content plan, and do try and stick to it, even if you're only creating new content once a fortnight. I've got a bit of a content plan template, which I'll send through to Rebecca after this as well, that she can share with you guys. The next one is to be consistent and creative. So quality over quantity. If you're feeling overwhelmed, cut the content you're publishing back and focus it on being awesome quality, not just number of posts. Also, if you're getting really snowed under, maybe in high season or through the school holidays, that kind of thing, have a think about the other staff members that you might be able to utilise to create content as well. In general, lots of people can write, so giving content jobs to interns or part-timers and that kind of thing is a really cool way to expand the value that your staff can offer your company as well. And number 8 is just to know what success looks like, and making sure that you're keeping an eye on those success metrics that we talked about in the earlier slide, so that you know you're getting decent bang for buck, and all the time you're putting into this space is actually yielding some decent results and some decent cut through for your business. Cool. So I hope that checklist is helpful and kind of brings everything together. I'll just stop sharing my screen now, guys. If there's any questions or any examples you'd like to chat through, feel free to unmute and chuck them out there or put them in chat. Nope. Was that helpful?
That was fantastic.
Cool.
Gosh, so has anyone got any questions at all? I think the USPs, everyone has to go away and have a think about that.
You just need 4 or 5 guys, 4 or 5 USPs, and you can run with it, but if you've got no USPs, you're kind of just shooting in the dark. Yeah,
that checklist was fantastic. That's a really helpful tool. And the COPE strategy, that was really useful. Purchase funnel, that's popped up a lot over the last few weeks, and it's so key to understand at what level your audience is at. Yeah, engagement, interaction. Lots of homework for people.
Don't get overwhelmed. If you're just doing 1 or 2 bits of content a month, that's a great place to start. So little, just start small.
I do have a question, if possible, just to help to brainstorm. In creating a content for Facebook and Instagram, you gave the example of a key brand pillar, family-owned business for 25 years, and then you say pinpoint 5 broad topics that link with your brand pillar.
Yeah.
What an example would be? Will it have to be topics related to that brand pillar, or could be different brand pillars in a business?
Yeah, they can be topics related to different brand pillars, but essentially it's making sure that your brand pillars are pulling through in the topics that you're posting about. So the family-owned messaging is awesome if you're pulling it through with maybe a historical post once a week or once a fortnight, or maybe a beautiful family holiday memory that you've got growing up in the accommodation offering that was owned by your family. So kind of pulling down that brand pillar and then brainstorming topics around that brand pillar that you can then go and post. So it's making sure all your stories are unique and different and stand out next to competitors.
Alex, I've got a question here. Would you describe how the content would be different for Facebook versus Instagram?
Yeah, totally. So Instagram is very, very image heavy. So image and video heavy, obviously. So that's kind of you lead with the image or the video, and the caption very much comes second. The caption and the hashtags come second. Whereas in Facebook, obviously you need to post everything with an image or a video, but the caption is as much of the Facebook experience as the image itself. So the words you're writing in Facebook are kind of more important and more read than what you're writing in Instagram as well. Instagram also is great with hashtags. Facebook and hashtags, personal preference, but yeah, bringing them right down to 1 or 2 is great. Seeing those Facebook posts with like 60 hashtags is not a good use of the space.
That's a really good comment, because the amount of Facebook posts you see out there with about 15 hashtags, it's crazy.
It's not the right platform for it. Hashtags are kind of made for Instagram, and it's just such a bad use of the platform, really. But yeah,
good. Any other questions? No. Okay. Great, you got off lightly, Alex. That was easy.
Lots of homework then.
Lots of homework. Everyone's kind of going, whoa.
Yeah, totally. I'll send through that content template as well, Rebecca, so you can share it with everybody after this. Really simple, but just as a way to organise your content plans over the next wee while.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Great. I think that's it. Thanks so much, Alex, for joining us again, and Angela too for facilitating the Q&A. If anybody does have any more questions you think of after the session that you would like some answers to, please just shoot them through to me. You should all have my email address, and yeah, plenty of homework to do, lots of great tips and tools there from Alex. So I'll share that content plan afterwards, and then we'll maybe check in the next few weeks to see if there's any more support that people want.
Hey Rebecca, we've just got one question. We might as well just quickly wrap it up with Kylie. Just chuck that one in the pot. Targeted ads, how do they work for Facebook?
Oh, sorry. Can I just
go Kylie?
I might not explain very well. You know, if you look on, say, you Google something on Facebook like new jeans, and then next minute you're on Facebook and I've got some jeans ads popping up. Is that through, and I think you covered that off, or one of the seed workshops covered that off, but is that through targeted Google or is that through Facebook?
It'll be through either or, really. So it'll be through Facebook content matching ads, or it will be through the Google Display Network ads as well. So it's basically
what was that? Facebook content matching?
Yeah, they're matching your search preferences to what ads they're showing you. Yeah. So with Facebook ads, the first step you really want to make sure you do is have the Facebook pixel installed into your website. So making sure that it's in the header of your website, so that all Facebook ads you run, you can base them off how users are engaging with your product, and that's what they'll be doing as well to target you.
Can we have a session on that, please, Rebecca?
I actually wrote that down, so note it. Cool.
Alex, I think you mentioned the other week that sometimes you can embed that pixel yourself, but it sometimes does require someone to help you do that.
It's like a 30-minute job for a developer. Like, it's you can totally have a crack yourself, but it's better to get someone who knows what they're doing to put it in the right place, and then you know you're pulling through the right data, essentially.
So what's a Facebook pixel, sorry?
Yeah, so you can get your Facebook pixel from when you set up your Facebook Business Manager. So you can run ads through Business Manager or through your page. We recommend doing it through Business Manager because that enables you to get a specific pixel that you can put into your website. And then it means that you know when somebody's converted off a Facebook ad, or it means you can run things like retargeting, when you can create a retargeting campaign to, showing ads to people who have been to your website but not converted. So it's just a way to get way deeper tracking and audience insights than just kind of boosting posts and hoping they land well.
Cool. So once you've set up your business, if you've got a business manager at that end, then you can get your web developer. Yeah, there'll be a pixel section in your business manager, and copy and paste that pixel into an email to your web developer, and they can put it into the head of your website. Oh, thank you very much. That's super helpful. You're
No
great,
worries.
Alex.
Oh, you're
I'll
welcome. Hope it helps.
I'll share maybe Kylie afterwards a link on more information on that if you want.
Oh, thanks, Rebecca.
Cool.
Awesome.
Have we got any more questions, or is that us? I think that's us. Great. Okay, thanks everyone for joining, and again, thank you, Alex, for your time. We really appreciate it over the past
No
3
worries.
sessions now. So everybody go away, put into practice what Alex has said, and again, like I said, shoot across any questions you have. Great. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. All the best. Good luck.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks so much.
Thank
There
you.
you go.